Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Learn Hub. Today, I have a very special, long story filled with suspense, friendship, and magical adventures. This is the perfect story to enjoy with your friends as it dives deep into the power of bonds that go beyond words. So, grab a seat, relax, and let's get started on this thrilling journey. Part 1: The Call to Adventure. The day Emma received the letter, she was sitting by the window of her small, cozy apartment in the city. The sun had just risen, casting a golden light on the cityscape outside. Her fingers paused midair above her coffee cup as the mailman dropped the letter through the door slot. Emma, a painter, had spent years hoping for something that could rekindle her fading sense of inspiration. She wasn't sure what she was looking for, perhaps adventure, perhaps a challenge, but she was certain that life in the city was growing increasingly predictable. Every day felt like a repetition of the last. When she opened the letter, the elegant, silver seal caught her attention immediately. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Unfolding the parchment, she read: To Emma, you are invited to embark on a journey to Misty Mountain, a place of ancient power and untold secrets. Only those who possess courage, wisdom, and heart can succeed. Will you take the first step into the unknown? Her breath caught in her chest. The letter felt personal, as though it had been written for her, and her alone. Her mind raced with possibilities, her hands trembling with excitement. But then doubt crept in. She had heard the legends of Misty Mountain before. The mountain that no one could conquer, the mountain that drove adventurers mad with its unexplainable challenges and endless mists. Yet, deep down, she couldn't resist. This was the call she had been waiting for. Emma hurried to call her friends, Liam, Noah, Ava, and Daniel. All of them had known her since childhood, and they were no strangers to the occasional odd adventure. But Misty Mountain? This was different. As Emma explained the contents of the letter, her friends reacted differently. Liam, who was always pragmatic and cautious, was the first to voice his concern. Are you sure about this, Em? People go there and never come back. But Noah, who had always been the quiet thinker in the group, disagreed. There's something about this that feels right. Maybe we don't need to know all the details. Maybe the journey itself is the answer. In the end, after many long discussions and doubts, the group unanimously decided to go. They weren't just friends, they were a family. And this was the kind of challenge that they could face together. Part 2: Preparing for the journey. The preparations were as much a part of the adventure as the journey itself. Each of them had something different to contribute. Emma spent days sorting through her old supplies and packing her backpack with art supplies, journals, and a few essential tools. Her thoughts wandered to what she might paint when they reached the top of Misty Mountain, what sights and scenes would inspire her. But somewhere deep inside, she knew the true inspiration would come from the journey itself. Liam, ever the realist, focused on the practical details. We're going to need climbing gear, ropes, and a way to navigate through those forests. We don't know what we'll encounter. Noah took charge of mapping the route. He spent hours researching the terrain, uncovering old maps and reading through ancient texts. The mountain is old, he said, pointing to a map with faded ink. Some say it moves, that the paths change as you go. But there are clues, signs along the way. Ava, who had a talent for learning languages and deciphering puzzles, dug into old folklore. She even found stories that claimed the mountain had its own guardian, a mysterious being who protected the secrets of the mountain from outsiders. I believe we need to be ready for whatever happens, she said. But more importantly, we need to understand the mountain's heart. Daniel, always focused on action, ensured everyone stayed motivated. We're doing this. No one's backing out. Let's move like we mean it. Together, they carefully organized their packs, ensuring they had everything they might need: layers of warm clothing, food, fire-starting supplies, and of course, climbing equipment. Each person's unique set of skills would be crucial to the group's survival, and they knew they had to rely on each other if they wanted to succeed. Part 3: The First Challenges. The journey to Misty Mountain began under a sky that was a perfect blue, and the crisp air of early spring carried the scent of pine and wildflowers. But as the days passed, the terrain grew steeper. The trees became thicker, their trunks twisted and dark. There was no turning back now. On the third day, they encountered their first real obstacle, a massive ravine, with a drop so deep that they could not see the bottom. The only way across was a narrow, precarious rope bridge that swayed dangerously in the wind. "I don't like the look of this," Liam said, gripping the edge of the cliff. He could see the jagged rocks below, sharp and unforgiving. Noah was the first to step onto the bridge, testing it with his weight. "It holds," he said after a tense moment, "but we still need to be careful. It could break with the wrong move." One by one, they crossed the bridge. Emma's heart raced, and she clenched her fists, afraid of the height, of the unknown. But each step she took was a little more confident, knowing that her friends were right there with her. When they all finally made it across, Emma looked back and realized something profound. The mountain wasn't just testing their strength, it was testing their fears, pushing them to face things they had avoided for years. The fears that they had carried with them for so long, doubt, hesitation, uncertainty, were being laid bare before them. Part 4. The Mountain's Heart. As they neared the peak, the air grew thin, and the temperature dropped drastically. The mist grew heavier, swirling around them as if it had a life of its own. Every now and then, strange sounds echoed from the distance, unfamiliar whispers carried by the wind. The final climb was the most difficult. The path narrowed, and with every step, the cold seemed to seep deeper into their bones. Yet they pressed on. With each footfall, the mountain seemed to challenge them even more. At the summit, they finally encountered the ancient tree, its silver bark glittering in the pale light of the moon. The tree's branches stretched high into the sky, almost as if it were touching the stars themselves. And within the heart of the tree was the crystal heart, glowing with an ethereal light that seemed to pulse in time with their hearts. But as they stood before the crystal, the guardian of the mountain appeared, a being of light, both beautiful and terrifying, its presence filling the air with an ancient power. "You have come far," the guardian said, its voice echoing in the air. "Now you must prove your worth." The group gathered around the tree, each person stepping forward to face the challenge laid before them. The crystal's light flared as each friend touched it, and they were instantly filled with visions of their future. Emma saw herself as an artist, using her work to heal the broken and inspire the world. Liam saw himself as a musician, creating songs that brought together people from every corner of the globe. Noah saw himself as a writer, crafting stories that would change the way people saw the world. Ava saw herself as a scholar, unearthing lost knowledge from ancient civilizations. Daniel saw himself as a leader, guiding others through difficult and dangerous paths. Part 5. The Return. The journey back was silent. They had all seen something beyond the physical world, a glimpse of what could be, and what they were capable of becoming. They had unlocked something within themselves, something powerful and transformative. As they descended the mountain, their hearts were lighter than they had ever been. They were not the same people who had arrived. They were changed. The mountain had taught them the value of trust, of overcoming fear, and of the strength they drew from each other. The town of Riverton was waiting for them. Their return was greeted with cheers and awe. They shared their story, but it wasn't the crystal heart or the guardian that captivated their listeners. It was the lessons they had learned, that the greatest treasure was not gold or fame, but the courage to face the unknown, the power of friendship, and the endless potential within themselves. I can continue expanding this story with more detailed descriptions, character development, emotional depth, and scene building. Below is the continued and expanded version of the story, including more about the journey, deeper character moments, challenges, and growth. As we go forward, I'll integrate these expanded moments into the existing structure. Part 6. The Mountain's Tests. As the group continued their climb, the weather became harsher. The wind whipped through the trees, bending the branches as though the mountain itself was trying to shake them off. Emma could feel the cold seep into her bones, despite the layers of clothing she wore. Her breath came out in visible puffs as the temperature dropped. "Stay close together," Daniel urged, looking around nervously. The group huddled together for warmth, making their way up a narrow trail that barely resembled a path. It was nothing like the clear routes they had followed at the beginning. The more they climbed, the more the mountain seemed to shift, as though the land itself was changing, trying to confuse them. "It's as if the mountain doesn't want us here," Ava said, her voice filled with both awe and fear. Her hand clutched tightly to her map, but the ancient road she had studied had long since disappeared into the fog. We have to trust each other now. They encountered obstacles one after another. First, a wild animal, perhaps a bear or something much stranger, had crossed their path. They'd heard strange, low growls in the distance, and the air was thick with tension. But they pressed on, hoping to avoid a confrontation. Later, while navigating a dense fog that had descended from nowhere, they faced their second challenge. A large rock slide had blocked the path. The path above them was too narrow to traverse safely, and the rocks continued to shift, threatening to tumble further. We need to make it to the other side, Noah said, his voice calm despite the mounting danger. There's no turning back. They used their climbing gear to scale the rock slide, taking one slow and careful step after another. With each move, Emma's heart raced. She kept thinking of the cliffs back home, how she had always feared heights. But now, with her friends by her side, she found a new courage. Every time she felt herself falter, she reached out for Noah or Daniel, who offered a steady hand or a reassuring word. At the top of the slide, the landscape opened up into a breathtaking view, even in the midst of the thick fog. The group paused to catch their breath, their hearts still racing from the ordeal. I thought we were done for, Liam muttered, his voice filled with relief. I was ready to turn back, but I guess we've made it this far, right? Turning back is never an option, Daniel replied, his jaw set in determination. Not after everything we've been through. It was in that moment that Emma realized how much she had changed in just a few short days. The mountain, harsh and unpredictable, had tested them all. It had challenged their resolve, their trust, and their loyalty to one another. But as they stood together, watching the fog lift ever so slightly, Emma could feel the bond between them grow stronger. The fear that had once consumed her had diminished. The mountain might have been dangerous, but it was also the greatest adventure of her life. Part 7. The Guardian of the Peak. As they ascended the final stretch of Misty Mountain, the air grew thinner, and the mist became almost solid, wrapping around them like a blanket. With every step, the mountain seemed to grow taller, more imposing. Each of them felt it. This was the moment they had been preparing for. And then, they reached the summit. Before them stood a massive stone archway, covered in glowing runes. The air felt electric. Emma took a deep breath, her fingers trembling as she held onto her pack. They were standing at the entrance of something ancient, something beyond their understanding. It was then that the Guardian appeared. It wasn't like any creature they had expected. It was neither man nor beast, but something between, a shifting, ethereal presence that seemed to move with the wind itself. Its voice echoed like thunder, yet it was strangely calm. You have come to the peak of eternity. It boomed. Few have reached this place. Many who have tried never returned. Only those who are truly worthy may pass. The Guardian's presence filled the air, and the friends instinctively took a step back. Ava, the scholar, was the first to speak, her voice trembling slightly. We are here to understand. We seek knowledge. We seek the truth. The Guardian tilted its head, as if considering her words. Knowledge, truth, and understanding are not given freely. They must be earned. Each of you must answer me one question before you can continue. Emma stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She had faced the cliffs, the fog, and the rock slides, but now, standing before the Guardian, she realized that the greatest test of all lay ahead. The Guardian's eyes seemed to pierce through her, reading her every thought, every emotion. It spoke, its voice deep and resonant. What is the greatest lesson you have learned so far on your journey? Emma's mind raced. She thought of the challenges they had faced, the obstacles they had overcome, and the bond they had formed. Finally, she answered, her voice steady but soft. The greatest lesson is that we are stronger together. The mountain has taught me that we can overcome anything as long as we trust each other. The Guardian regarded her for a long moment. Your answer is true. And what of the others? It turned its gaze to Liam. Liam, who had always doubted the journey, seemed to hesitate. But after a long pause, he spoke, his voice filled with conviction. I've learned that there's more to life than just surviving. Sometimes you have to take risks. You have to trust in the journey. The Guardian nodded once again. And you, Noah? Noah was the last to speak. He had always been quiet, contemplative. But this time, he didn't hesitate. I've learned that the mind can be both a prison and a key. We can trap ourselves in our doubts, or we can use those doubts to push ourselves forward. The guardian looked at each of them in turn, its glowing eyes softer now. You have proven yourselves worthy. But the true test lies ahead. Part 8. The Crystal Heart. With the guardian's blessing, the group passed through the stone archway and entered the cavern. The air was warmer here, the mist swirling around them like an otherworldly fog. As they moved deeper into the cavern, they saw the Crystal Heart, an immense crystal, pulsing with light, suspended in the center of a massive tree with silver bark. Emma's eyes widened in awe. The tree was not just a tree, it was ancient, alive, its branches reaching up toward the sky. The Crystal Heart shone brightly, casting reflections on the cavern walls that danced like living shadows. For a moment, everything felt still, as though the world had paused just for them. No one spoke. The weight of the moment settled on their shoulders. This was what they had come for. But the question remained, what would they do once they reached the heart? What would they learn? Noah was the first to step forward. As he approached the crystal, the ground beneath his feet seemed to hum with energy. The others followed, each of them drawn toward the heart, each of them feeling the pull of something deep within. As they stood before the Crystal Heart, the guardian's voice echoed in their minds. This is the heart of the mountain, the source of its power. But it is not just a source of power. It is a reflection of the soul. Each of you will see something within it. Something you need to understand about yourselves. Emma stepped forward. The moment her hand touched the crystal, a flood of images filled her mind. She saw herself standing on a stage, a canvas in front of her. She was painting, not just pictures, but emotions, memories, stories that healed the world. Her paintings were not just art, they were windows into people's souls. The vision faded, and Emma was left standing in front of the crystal, her heart pounding. She could feel her purpose now, clearer than ever. The journey had revealed not just the world, but herself. She was meant to create, to bring beauty and understanding into the world. Part 9. The Return Home. The descent from Misty Mountain felt lighter than the climb. They were different now, changed by the journey, by the challenges, by the lessons learned along the way. But there was no time for reflection. Their town was waiting for them, and they had to share what they had discovered. When they returned to Riverton, they were welcomed as heroes. The town had watched anxiously as they ventured into the unknown, and now, they were back with stories to tell. But it wasn't the Crystal Heart, or the Guardian, or the mystical powers of the mountain that captivated the people. It was the lessons they had learned, that the greatest treasure was not wealth, but the strength of their friendship, the trust they had built, and the knowledge they had gained about themselves. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting a warm, golden glow over the town, Emma looked at her friends. They had been through so much together, and now, they were more than just friends. They were a family, bound by the trials of Misty Mountain and the unbreakable bond of trust. Part 10. The long-awaited celebration. The return to Riverton was both a joyful and overwhelming experience. The town, which had stood still while the group journeyed through the unforgiving terrain of Misty Mountain, came alive with excitement at their arrival. News of their success spread like wildfire, and soon, the town square was filled with people eager to hear about the daring adventure. It was a homecoming, but also a moment for reflection. The group entered the square, the familiar sights of their small town looking almost foreign after their long, arduous journey. The cobblestone streets, the quaint houses, the small shops, it all seemed so much smaller now, and yet, Emma knew it was all part of the story. The journey they had undertaken had altered them irrevocably. Daniel, ever the optimist, turned to them with a grin. Well, looks like we're about to become legends around here. Liam chuckled, though there was a hint of nervousness in his laugh. I'd say heroes, but I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that title. We didn't do this for the glory. Ava, always the thoughtful one, smiled warmly. No, we didn't. But perhaps it's a reminder of how much we've grown. And how far we've come. Emma felt a deep sense of pride swell within her, but it was also mixed with humility. This journey had shown her not just her own strengths, but the strength of those around her. They had all become something more than they were when they started, more than just friends. They were united by something much deeper. As the crowd gathered in the square, the mayor of Riverton stepped forward. He was an elderly man, wise with years but still sprightly enough to give a hearty handshake to each member of the group. His voice rang out, echoing through the square. You have all done something that no one else has been able to achieve. Your bravery, your determination, and your unwavering loyalty to each other have not only saved this town's spirit but have given us all hope. The crowd erupted into applause, and Emma's heart swelled. She glanced at her friends, Noah, Liam, Daniel, Ava, and in that moment she realized that the true treasure was not in the stories they would tell, but in the way they had all changed as people. Part 11, The Ripple Effect. Though the group had returned as heroes, they quickly realized that the true impact of their journey was still unfolding. In the days following their return, Emma and her friends found that the lessons they had learned during their time in Misty Mountain were not just life-changing for them, but for everyone around them. At the town's celebration, Emma found herself speaking with the town's elders, many of whom were moved by the transformation they had witnessed in the group. One of them, a woman named Mabel, who had been living in Riverton for decades, sat next to Emma and began to share her own story. You see, Mabel began, her eyes twinkling. When I was a young girl, there was an expedition that left this town much like yours. They ventured into the same mountains, searching for something, but they never came back. Emma's heart sank, but she kept listening. Mabel continued, her voice soft but firm. They never returned, but their courage lived on in this town. They did not have the benefit of knowing the mountain's secrets, and they did not have the bond that you all share. But they did have the same fire. The same spirit. Emma reached out to hold Mabel's hand, her voice gentle. I think we learned that it's not just the destination that matters, but how we grow along the way. We weren't just after treasure. We were after understanding. About the mountain, and ourselves. Mabel nodded. That's wisdom beyond your years, my dear. Keep that in your heart. Part 12, Personal Reflections. As the days passed, Emma found herself reflecting more and more on everything that had transpired. She walked through Riverton streets, her mind still trying to process the sheer scale of their adventure. The mountain had revealed so much more than just its secrets. It had exposed the truth hidden deep within each of them. She sat on a bench outside the town square, gazing at the familiar scene around her. The laughter of children playing in the streets, the chatter of friends sitting at the cafes, and the gentle rustling of the trees in the breeze, it all felt so normal, so peaceful. Yet, Emma knew that she had changed. She would never look at the world the same way again. Her mind drifted to her friends. Daniel's cheerful optimism had been infectious from the start, but she had seen how he had struggled with his own doubts. As the journey progressed, his confidence had grown, not from the glory of their accomplishments, but from realizing his own strength, his ability to lead when needed, and the depth of his care for everyone. Noah, on the other hand, had always been reserved, keeping his thoughts close to his chest. But during their time on Misty Mountain, he had shown a surprising amount of vulnerability. His calm demeanor had steadied the group in moments of panic, but it was his quiet reflections during their nights by the campfire that had given them deeper insight into the mountain and themselves. Emma realized that Noah's strength came not from physical feats, but from his ability to remain steadfast, even when facing his own fears. Ava, the intellectual, had been the one to keep them grounded in knowledge. Her constant research had been invaluable, but Emma saw how Ava had come to rely on something more than just facts and maps. She had learned to trust her instincts. It was Ava who had taught Emma how to listen to the wind, to trust the signs of nature, and to be present in the moment. Liam, the skeptic, had been the most reluctant to undertake this journey, yet Emma had seen how he had grown the most. In the beginning, he had doubted every decision, every path. But as they faced the trials of the mountain together, Liam had found a new appreciation for the unknown. He learned that sometimes the greatest challenges were the ones that forced him to confront his deepest insecurities, but he had emerged stronger. Part 13, New Beginnings. As the seasons shifted and the days grew warmer, Emma found herself standing at the town's edge, looking out at the horizon. The mountain loomed in the distance, but this time, it seemed less intimidating. The fog that had once swallowed it whole now felt like an invitation. "I guess we're going to have to find a new adventure soon, huh?" Daniel said, appearing beside her, his hands in his pockets. Emma smiled. "Maybe. But I think for now, I just want to appreciate what we've done. We've learned so much about ourselves." "That's true," Daniel agreed. "But there's always more to discover. It's just the beginning, isn't it?" "It is," Emma replied. "I've learned that we don't need to be afraid of what's out there. We just need to keep going, together." The group spent the next few days discussing their next steps. Some of them talked about traveling to other lands, while others considered staying in Riverton to help the town flourish. The future seemed uncertain, but one thing was clear: they would face it together. The bonds forged on Misty Mountain were unbreakable. They had learned that true friendship was not just about being there during the good times, but standing by each other through the worst. They had been tested, challenged, and transformed. And now, they were ready for whatever came next. The heart of the journey. The story of their adventure would eventually fade into legend, but for Emma and her friends, it was more than just an epic tale to tell. It was a journey of self-discovery, a testament to the strength of friendship, and a reminder that the greatest treasures were not jewels or gold, but the experiences they shared and the people they became along the way. As Emma sat with her friends on the last evening before they parted ways, she knew that no matter where they went or what paths they chose, they would always have this shared adventure, this shared understanding, and this shared heart. I hope you all enjoyed this epic tale of friendship and mystery. It teaches us that true treasure lies not in riches but in the friends we make along the way. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and subscribe to Learn Hub. Share this video with your friends to remind them of the strength in unity. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.